Welcome back. You're with us on Closing Bell. Now, Deepan has an interesting stock pick for us. And Deepan, I want to ask you about that. We've discussed lots of earnings. And this is a company that's going in for a restructuring right now. I mean, the new entity, as we know it, as it's listed, is called Jubilant Pharmova, if I pronounce that right. So tell us why you like this and how you're looking at the restructuring.
Yeah, I think first of all, the restructuring will remove uncertainties in the minds of investors and there's clarity as to which business they want to buy into. Because the life sciences business is typically cyclical, commodity-driven, trades at lower pre-multiples. But the pharmaceutical business, especially contract manufacturing, then there are certain specialty products. I think there's a great window for growth over there. And although I think last couple of quarters, the numbers have been impacted because of contrast chemicals, the radio pharma business has been doing badly because of less clinical procedures in US and elsewhere where they cater to. But that's coming back pretty strong. And on the contract manufacturing side, the company is established with a good deal of orders over there. That could be a growth engine going forward. What we like best is that it trades at a significant discount. Some of its peer group companies could compare to Divi's Lab or Piramal Pharma Division or some of the other contract manufacturers. And there's scope for fees to get re-rated once the company has been split. And once we have normalcy coming back into the US market, then again, the specialty chemical business will turn out to be a big growth driver and improve the EBITDA margin. So on a valuation perspective and growth dynamics, we are quite positive on Jubilant Life Sciences as it is listed just now. Usual disclosure that we and our clients are invested in.
Okay, that's on Jubilant Pharmova. That's the name of the stock, of course. The other stock which has really climbed ever since its results is M&M Financial. I just want to pull out a slightly longer chart of M&M Financial. I remember on the results day, it was just about 2 weeks back, I think the stock had fallen to about 140. And since then, it's, I mean, of course, budget helped, but okay, not 140, but say 150, 154. And since then, just a one-way rally. Deepan, it does that, right? Even if it comes out with howlers, after 1 or 2 days, we start to see a big rally. But any thoughts on M&M Financial?
No, it's been a big disappointment. Last 3 to 5 years or so, you see the way other peer group companies have performed. And really, it's gone from bad to worse, if you ask me frankly. I think they just don't have a handle on the NPAs. And every time the management comes on and says that the worst is over, and then something or the other, some event or the other takes place, and they are amongst the laggards when it comes to NPAs. At least this quarter round, I was quite hopeful because M&M per se is doing better and a lot of captive business will have come through to M&M Finance. But the kind of lending standards which they have, which is resulting in such high NPAs, is very disappointing. So I would like to avoid M&M Finance. We have a great choice as far as NBFCs are concerned. And even within the vehicle financing companies, you look at the numbers which came out from Sundaram Finance or Cholamandalam. I think those are very impressive, much better than I thought for Shriram Transport as well. I would go for those companies which have outperformed, managed their balance sheet better, kept NPAs under control, rather than M&M Finance. All I think that M&M Finance has is that it's got a great pedigree, M&M being the promoter, and its association with M&M, which is one of the largest automobile companies. But apart from that, I think they haven't done the business up to investor expectations.
Okay, noted that point. Deepan, we'll wind it up on that note then. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. You have a good weekend and we will connect again on the markets perhaps next week. Well, on that note, let's get you the final round of market opinion now. Earlier in the day, we also caught up with Harsha Upadhyay of Kotak Mutual Fund and asked him about what he thinks of the third quarter earnings season and also how he is placing their top sectoral bets. Kotak, of course, is quite overweight on cyclical stocks at the moment.
Fantastic earnings season, I would say, much better than what was anticipated initially. I think if you look at the Nifty basket, we are close to about 30% year-on-year growth. And what has stood out in this is, apart from the recovery that we have seen on the top line, we are witnessing a deleveraging in most of the cyclical names, which is going to be a very good thing when you enter the next phase of recovery. And also, we have seen cost optimization efforts continuing across the board. I think these are some of the things which have been continuing since the COVID crisis hit us. And obviously, all of these efforts will fare well as you go into next year with full recovery.
Your thoughts on some of these autos and auto ancillary names? They have rallied a lot. Do you think the cycle has really turned, or could this be a bit of a trap for investors?
At least for now, we believe that cycle has turned. The volume growth should continue. But the only caveat here is there has been raw material price increases last quarter, which was not visible in the 3Q results. Obviously, there was some old inventory which helped them to manage costs. Going into fourth quarter, we could see some of these costs showing up, and also the advertising and promotion costs could also increase a bit as the economy opens up further. So overall, while we are comfortable on the volume growth side, the costs may increase a little bit as compared to the previous quarter. So to that extent, one should be aware of it.
Harsha, where are you on metals like Tata Steel, JSW Steel, even for that matter Hindalco, but more so the steel companies? We had one of the downstream users complain bitterly about how irrational the pricing has become. And we know that the minister and the CCI are also behind them.
We do have positions in both ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Obviously, on the ferrous side, we have a larger OV, and that has worked quite well. And some of our portfolio companies have also deleveraged quite a bit in the last 9 to 12 months. So even if you assume that enterprise value is going to remain the same, whatever reduction you have seen on the debt side should ideally get into the equity value, and that's what is happening. And on top of that, we are also seeing, as you rightly said, a strong a pricing scenario, which is helping profitability as well. So overall, it looks very good for metals.
So you will add incrementally is what I'm asking. Not that you just hold, but you could, if you got additional funds, it would be a portion to metals.
We will evaluate. I can't say that whether we will definitely add or not, but it's not something that we will avoid at this point.
What about industrials? How do you cut this up? How do you drill deeper and then start building or positioning for an economic recovery?
So within industrials, we are looking at some of the diversified names which will benefit as government spend picks up, and also we expect some sort of increase in private spend, maybe in the second half of next financial year, and that should also help some of the early cycle beneficiaries that we have in our portfolio. So it's not one subsegment that we are looking at. We are across the board in industrials. And we believe that any pickup in government spend and thereafter in the private spend should help some of these companies in terms of the top line. And already all of these companies have cleaned up their balance sheet. They are quite strong in terms of the capital structure. And they've also optimized a lot of costs in the lean period.
Harsha, insurance has been a very strong sector, and of course it had budget tailwind as well with that FDI going up. Do you have any of these stocks in your portfolio? Are you adding to them?
Yes, we do have a couple of names in insurance, but we are not looking to add at this point of time. We are fairly comfortable with our positioning. In fact, within the banking, we would look for pockets where there can be positive growth surprises, and that can come mostly on the lending side rather than on the non-lending side. So to that extent, I would say that incrementally we would be more comfortable investing in lending businesses rather than non-lending ones.
Okay, that was the view coming in from Kotak Mutual Fund. And with that, it is time to start wrapping up the day and the week. Nifty is negative. The mid-cap index has also cooled off, but it is the bank Nifty all the way. And for the week as a whole, if I could quickly look at the weekly performance, well, the Nifty is up 1.6% and the bank Nifty is up 1.2%. So Anuj, how would you now read through? Budget is done, earnings are done. Yeah. It's still 15,000 plus on the main index. So what's your final take?
I think, as I said, Surbhi, if you look at the weekly performance, almost all indices are in line, right? Nifty 1.6, the bank Nifty, the mid-cap index up 2.1. But within that, there's been a lot of volatility. So I think this sector rotation perhaps could continue for a bit. On Monday, I want to see if the bank Nifty can take out this congestion zone of 36,200, 250 thereabout. If it can do that, perhaps, because don't want to extrapolate. You could have easily extrapolated yesterday and got stuck in Reliance. So, you could extrapolate Bank Nifty today and get stuck on Monday. So you don't want to do that. You just want to take, each day as it comes from the trading point of view. But in terms of stocks, of course, really all over the place. Well, let's start with the winners because overall it was still a decent day. So Adani Ports was your top Nifty gainer, up about 3%, fresh 52-week high. ICICI Bank was the top contributor, up 2.5%. Infosys was up 1.5%. HDFC and Axis Bank were up about 1%. Throw in a Wipro as well, up 1%. On the way down, ITC is actually ending at the lowest point of the day, almost 4% down on that stock. GAIL was down about 2.7%, some correction. ONGC was down about 2.5%. Sun Pharma Well, Sun Pharma started with a fresh 52-week high on that news, but again, I guess it's about the market positioning. It's ending actually at the low point, down about 2.5%. Coal India down 2.5%, Tata Steel down 2%, Titan, Bharti Airtel, Eicher Motors, Hindalco, some other losers.
Okay, and on mid caps, let me quickly start with the earnings. We've got two auto stocks on two ends of the spectrum. Motherson Sumi, 10.5% at last count. What a blowout performance from the company, and the stock getting rewarded. But then look at Ashok Leyland. Those commodity prices, steel prices are really hurting. And the market chose not to buy in today, at least, even after the analyst call. Stock is still down 5% as we're closing out. Let's move to some other result reactions. Then V8 Equabag on the upside, 5.5% up. You've got Repco Home Finance on the upside, 4% up. Then, of course, some of the aviation stocks like SpiceJet are excited because now fares can be higher. The cap has been raised. Affle and Route Mobile have put on 4-5% as well. So that play continues in the market. On the downside, look at stocks like Oil India. That's a result reaction. Voltas numbers were good, but the market chose to cool off a little bit on this one. 2% on the lower side. And Bharat Forge's numbers missed estimates. A couple of extraordinary items here and there. So it's a mixed bag. But overall, I mean, for the stock at least, it was down 1% today. That's how it's cutting up. Let me quickly run the eye through numbers or the stocks beyond numbers. Teamly is losing about 6% today. NCC is down another 7% today. So these are some of the names that really stand out. Bajaj Consumer losing about 7% as well. These are some of the big names. So mixed trends across the mid-cap market with a bit of a downside bias. With that, it is curtains down on this edition of Closing Bell. Many thanks for watching. But up next, don't go anywhere, because you can learn the A to Z of debt fund investing with Kirtan Shah of SRE Wealth as he answers all of your questions in our special offering, Smart Money.